In this video, we're going to look at the first paragraph in the academic essay, the introduction. We'll talk about the introduction and different aspects of it. We'll study the characteristics of a good introductory paragraph and consider its structure and components and learn how to write it. In the end, we'll give some guidelines to revise, edit, and proofread your introduction. While you're watching, make sure that you pause and take notes. If you need to navigate, use the time-stamped outline in the description of the video. And remember, you need to come back and watch some parts again in order to review and reinforce what you've learned. So let's start with the basics. What is an introduction? Well, obviously, the introduction is the first paragraph of the essay. This is the paragraph in which you prepare your readers for the discussion of all the details that you'll have in the body later on. You provide the background and context that your readers need to make sense of your essay and the main idea. And also, it is an invitation to your readers to enter the world of your topic and your main idea. So the introduction should be pleasant to read and easy to understand. Now, what are the characteristics of a good introduction? Now, firstly, your introduction should grab your reader's attention through a strong hook that you have at the beginning, and you should do it immediately. You should introduce the subject matter by starting from shared knowledge, which is knowledge that both you and your audience have. In this way, you establish a common ground between yourself and your readers. Remember that you need to provide only the background necessary for understanding the essay main idea, which is different from the topic, right? This one is specific and to the point. Also, in the last sentence of the introduction, you need to clarify the main idea. You're saying what the main idea is, what it is that you're going to discuss in the whole essay. And also you give a direction to this main idea. You're saying what you are doing with this main idea. This is something that you do in your thesis statement, and we're going to speak about the thesis statement in a few minutes. Now, what are the main components in an introduction? Any introduction is made up of three main components. You have a hook at the beginning, just one sentence, which is your attention grabber. You have your background information. This is the part in which you provide the context or history or background. This is the largest part of your introduction. And then you have the thesis statement at the end, just one sentence. This is the most important sentence of the whole introduction and the whole essay, actually. And this is the sentence in which you're clearly saying what the main idea is. You give a direction to this main idea, and also you give some idea about how you're organizing everything in the essay later on. Let's speak about the first component, the hook. The hook is the first sentence of the essay. And remember, we have a hook at the beginning of the essay only when we may lose readers. Now, remember that in real life situations, almost in any kind of writing, we have hooks. And the reason is that in real life situations, your writing is in competition with other writers' writings. And there is a chance that readers will ignore your writing and will choose other people's writings instead. All right. So you want to have a hook at the beginning in order to attract audience. That is the main purpose of the hook. To be honest, writing the hook is the most difficult part, or one of the most difficult things that you do in the writing process. Many professional writers work on their hooks for a long time. They write different versions of it. They try it on different readers until they get the right hook at the beginning. This is your first chance, or perhaps even the last chance that you have to capture your reader's attention. Your hook must be short, strong, and relevant to the main idea that you have. You must put forth a fresh angle in your hook. The ideas should be fresh. And also, you must express the idea in an interesting and effective way. The language also should be interesting, attractive, and new. If your hook is something that you have read or seen before, then it'll work against you. All right, this is what we mean by fresh angle and interesting and effective language. Avoid cliches or overused phrases or language or words. And also remember that the hook is always genre specific, which means the kinds of hooks that we have in academic writing are never used in novel writing and other genres as well. Now, the most important kinds of hooks that we have in academic writing are facts, statistics, citations, definitions, opinions or perspectives that you want to challenge, and also sometimes explanations at the beginning why you're writing something or why your readers need the information in your essay. Let's look at some examples. Now, the first kind of hook that you can have, this one is very common, is having a fact at the beginning. Do not give any kind of fact. Your fact should be little known, something that many people don't know, or it could be a striking, interesting, even shocking fact, like the example we have here. A cockroach can carry more than 40 different pathogens that could spread to humans. Many people know that cockroaches are dirty and perhaps not very healthy to have at home, but perhaps you didn't know that they can carry over 40 different pathogens to human beings. The second kind of hook that you can have is a kind of a statistic, a kind of figure number that you can have at the beginning, like this one we have here. 1 in 3 women in the town is likely to have been subjected to intimate partner violence. Again, notice that the statistic we have here is really striking, it is shocking. And in the proper context, for example, at the beginning of an essay in which we were speaking about domestic violence, this is a very, very interesting hook to have. The next kind of hook that we can have is a citation at the beginning. Remember, again, keep it short, keep it relevant, something like the one we have here. The playwright George Bernard Shaw once argued that those who can do, those who can't teach, which is a very good hook for a kind of essay in which you're discussing problems with teaching or teachers or school. It is possible to have a definition at the beginning as a kind of hook. Like the one we have here, business is more than just an exchange of funds for services or goods. And if you notice, the definition we're giving here is a little bit vague, and this is what makes the hook very interesting here. The claim in this definition is that business is more than something, but it doesn't tell you what it is. All right, and you need to keep reading to have the information. And that is the purpose of the hook. The purpose of the hook is attract attention. Now, one important point about definitions is that don't find the definition, don't get it from a source, don't get it from a book like a dictionary or encyclopedia. You should be able to give the definition in your own writing style. It is possible to have something at the beginning that you want to challenge or you disagree with. If there is an opinion, a myth, a perspective that you disagree with and you have evidence against, if it is something that many people believe in and it is actually wrong, then it's a good point to mention it at the beginning as a hook, like this one. Most people think that writing is something that only those with a born talent can ever do well, which is a great hook for an essay which is discussing writing, the writing process, which shows that everybody can start writing actually. And finally, it is possible to have some kind of explanation at the beginning in one sentence, justifying why you need to speak about this main idea or why your readers need to read about this topic. Something like students face all kinds of problems when they start college, which is a great way of starting an essay about problems that students may have later on in college or university, and most probably also recommending some solutions to those problems. Now, the next component and the largest section of the introduction is the background. If you remember, this is the part in which we establish a common ground between you and your readers. Remember, the information that you give here should be based on facts and not opinions. And the reason we do this is that, remember, at the beginning of your essay, you're still establishing some trust between you and your audience. They don't trust you completely right now. And if you start with facts, people accept facts and they agree with facts more readily than with opinions. People have strong emotions about opinions. They may agree or disagree with opinions, and there is a higher chance that you may lose readers. So it's a good idea to choose a number of facts about your main idea and put them here in the background. Also, it's a good idea to keep the vocabulary non-technical. There are readers who may read something and decide that it is too technical for them, and they simply choose not to continue reading. And also, again, make sure that you speak only about that specific aspect of the subject matter that you want to discuss in the body. One main problem with many student essays is that they give a very long background. They go so far back in the history of the topic and they want to tell everything. Just keep the background to the main idea that you want to discuss in the essay. There are different types of background. The classical way to write your background information is to move from general to specific. What you do here is that you start with more general ideas, and then sentence by sentence, you move on to more specific ideas. The first fact that you give is general. The next one is a little bit more specific. The next one is more specific, so on and so forth. This is a safe way of writing your background information section, and there are many essays that use the same method. The second kind of background is contrastive background, in which you start with the description of a viewpoint or a perspective that you disagree with or you want to challenge, and then you shift to the opposite point of view. This is a great way of starting an introduction for an argumentation essay. And of course, it is possible also to give a little bit of history if it is appropriate for your main idea for your audience. Sometimes it's a good idea to talk about the history. Make sure that you keep it general. All right. Don't give any details. You don't need to include dates and specific names of people or places or historical events or things like that. Now, let's look at some examples of the different kinds of background that we have. Now, this is an example of general to specific background information. All human beings want to feel successful, but people are not born with the same abilities. However, everyone has the ability to learn. By working hard at learning a skill, anyone can learn it to a certain extent. Even the most famous artists say that practice is more important than their native talent. Now, we just have 3-4 sentences here. Notice that even in these sentences, many ideas are becoming more and more specific. For example, we're starting with the idea of human beings, and then we move on to people, and then everyone, then anyone, and then at the end, we become very specific and we're talking about artists. Or we're talking about the idea of success, and then we move on to abilities, and then one kind of ability, the ability to learn, and then one kind of learning is skill, and then at the end of the background, we're talking about artistic abilities, right? So you see, everything is becoming more and more specific. This is planned, all right? This is not something that we randomly achieve. This is an example of a contrastive background information. Recently, there have been many posts on social media that recommend eating garlic to prevent infection, and thus suggesting it can be used in preventing or even curing COVID-19. These kinds of remedies are not harmful in themselves as long as they are not preventing people from following evidence-based medical advice. However, the World Health Organization states that while garlic is a healthy food that may have some antimicrobial properties, there is no evidence that it can protect people from the new coronavirus. You notice that at the beginning, we're starting with something, an idea or a perspective or an opinion that we want to challenge, the idea that garlic may prevent or even cure COVID-19, and then we correct the claim and we say that there is actually no evidence that this is true. This is an example of general history. With the exception of Native Americans, the United States is a country of immigrants. Each group of immigrants arrived bringing their hopes, their dreams, and their work ethics, and they all had to start at the bottom. One by one, the immigrant groups, such as the Irish, the Italians, and the Chinese, struggled for acceptance and respect. Each group faced enormous obstacles from discrimination. In the end, however, each succeeded and now makes up an important part in the country. Notice that here we're just talking about a historical pattern, the pattern of people immigrating, having trouble and struggles at the beginning, but becoming part of the society eventually. We're not talking about any specific event or any specific period. This is something that could happen today, could have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Now, the last component of the introductory paragraph is the thesis statement. This is the most important sentence of the whole essay. Actually, it is so important that examiners, professors, instructors, they check this sentence first. And usually when there's an essay assignment in college or university, your instructor may ask for your thesis statement and your outline as the first assignment. They will approve your thesis statement and outline, and then you can get started on the essay from the beginning. Usually as a writer, this is the first sentence that you write, and the reason is that when you write this sentence, you're clear about your main idea, you're clear about your direction, and it gives shape to everything. When you have this sentence, you're clear what kind of background you need, what kind of hook you need in your introduction, and you have a clear idea what you're going to have in your body paragraphs later on. Now, obviously, the thesis statement is the last sentence of the introductory paragraph. It is just one sentence. And this is a sentence in which you clearly say what the main idea is, and also you give a direction to the main idea. So these are the elements that you have in your thesis statement. There is one main idea in the thesis statement, and this main idea is focused and to the point. Then you have your controlling idea. The controlling idea expresses the direction that you give to the main idea. And usually this depends on the template that you have. All right. So in argumentation, you give a direction. In comparison and contrasting, you give another direction to the main idea. So actually the name of each template is the name of the direction that we give to the main idea. So argumentation is what kind of direction, comparison, contrast, cause, effect, problem, solution, process, illustration, all of them, these are different names of directions that we give to main ideas. There is an optional part also at the end, a predictor. This is a short list of the main idea parts, and I will show how it works in a few minutes. It is really important to get the thesis statement right and effective, because when you have a clear thesis statement, you can avoid lots and lots of problems later on when you're writing your essay. So these are the characteristics of a good thesis statement. Your thesis statement should be a complete sentence. It's never a phrase or clause. Your thesis statement cannot be a question. Your thesis statement cannot state facts. It is an expression of opinion. You cannot announce the main idea in your thesis statement, and also you need to break the main idea into parts. Now, let's talk about each one of them one by one. The first one is your thesis statement should be a complete sentence, and we mean a grammatically complete sentence. There should be a subject, there should be a verb. As you see in the example, if you say different kinds of dictionaries, you do have a main idea here, dictionaries. You do have a direction here. You're talking about different kinds. You're classifying something. But this is not a sentence. This is not a grammatical sentence. All right. So you need to write a grammatical sentence like there are different kinds of dictionaries. You have a complete sentence now. Secondly, this sentence cannot be a question. If you say, for example, should recreational drugs be legalized? You're asking a question. Remember, questions ask for information. In your thesis statement, as the name suggests, you're going to put forth some kind of information, put forth some kind of perspective. All right. So it cannot be a question. And the correct form would be recreational drugs should be legalized, or if you disagree, should not be legalized or should be banned or something definite. Thirdly, your thesis statement cannot be a statement of fact. The reason is that we cannot argue facts. And the main purpose of essay writing is that you have some kind of perspective that you want to express, right? You remember when we defined the essay, one aspect of the definition was the expression of ideas. This expression of ideas should be reflected in the thesis statement. So the example we have here, the disabling and life-threatening disease polio is caused by the polio virus. This is just a fact. You cannot agree or disagree with it. They cannot debate it. All right. Facts could be used to support ideas in different parts of the essay, but they cannot be used in the thesis statement. Also, do not announce the main idea. Remember that the name of this sentence is thesis statement. You need to state your thesis and you don't announce it. And by announcement, I mean the kind of language that sometimes people use to say what they are going to say later on. If you look at the examples we have here, you say this essay will explore the reasons why cell phones must be banned in classrooms, or I will discuss why cell phones must be banned in classrooms. In these two examples, the part in which you are saying this essay will explore the reasons why, or I will discuss why, you're announcing what you're going to do in this essay as a writer. This is announcement, and you don't need it. We don't have it in academic writing. You simply give the thesis, all right? So the improved version, which is even shorter and to the point, is cell phones must be banned in classrooms. Remember, you don't need to remind your readers that this is an essay or you are the writer and you're writing this. By definition, the essay is the expression of your ideas. And also readers know that they're reading an essay. You don't need to remind them what they're doing. And finally, and most importantly, the thesis statement should break the main idea into parts. This happens based on the direction that you have. For example, if the direction that you're giving to the main idea is argumentation, then you break it into an argument, a counter-argument, and a number of reasons. If the direction you're giving is problem solution, then you're breaking the main idea into a problem and a number of solutions, so on and so forth. We're going to look at some examples and you will see this. So the example we have here, there are three main stages in the writing process: planning, drafting, and revising. And notice that the direction that we're giving here to the main idea is a process. We're saying that this is a process. And in a process, you can break the process into a number of stages, or these are the parts that we have, and we're naming them here. You have planning and drafting and revising. So let's look at some examples of thesis statements. The first one is there are three basic kinds of library materials: books, reference works, and periodicals. The second one is overuse of smartphones can result in several problems in children, namely a loss of creativity, withdrawal from real-life experience, and a very short attention span. And the last one is Toronto differs from New York in several ways: tourism, employment, and security, respectively. Now, notice that in all these three very simple sentences in which we're giving different directions to the main ideas that we have, we're following all the standards, all the guidelines, right? All of them, all these sentences are complete sentences. Grammatically, they are not questions. They are ideas. You may agree or disagree with them. You may break the main idea into different parts. If you wanted to write about these main ideas, also we're not announcing anything, and also we're breaking the main idea into different parts. I want to show you the most important parts that we have in these thesis statements. Now, the first one, if you remember, you have to clearly say what the main idea is. And these are the main ideas. In the first thesis statement, library materials is the main idea. In the second one, overuse of smartphones is the main idea. And in the third one, which is a comparison and contrast thesis statement, Toronto and New York, the two items that we want to discuss, form the main idea. Notice that the main idea in the thesis statement could be expressed in one word or one phrase, or even separate words in different parts of the sentence. The second component is the direction or the controlling idea. So in the first one, we're talking about the basic kinds of library materials. In the second one, you're talking about cause effect, and this is what you have, result in several problems. And in the last one, we're talking about the differences, and these are the phrases that show. And also you remember that we have an optional part at the end, your predictor, which is a short list of main idea parts. Notice how we introduce them, right? In the first one, you have a colon, which looks like a dot over a dot. And then you have your list. You have books, reference works, and periodicals. These are the three parts to the main idea we have. In the second one, You introduce the predictor using the word namely. This shows that you want to make a list. All right, this is a signal to your readers that, guys, I'm going to make a list. And then the items that you have are a loss of creativity, withdrawal from real life experience, a very short attention span. These are the effects. And also in the last one, you have a list. You have tourism, employment, and security. These are the differences you're discussing here. And notice that you have the word respectively at the end. This is also a signal like namely that you're making a list. The difference is that respectively is used at the end of the list to show that this was a list. So when you're using namely, you're saying, guys, I'm going to make a list. And when you use respectively at the end of the list, you're saying, guys, that was a list I just made. Be careful of the items. Now, when you write your introduction and you finish, it's a good idea to pause, read, and check a number of things. These questions here are designed in order to help you fix your introduction before you move on to your body paragraphs. So firstly, is the paragraph within the word limit? Do you remember we talked about this? Academically, there's always a word limit to the paragraphs, to the whole essay. Now count the number of words that you have in your introduction, and is the paragraph within the word limit? Have you included all the components, which means do you have a hook? Do you have background information? Do you have a thesis statement? And inside your background information, do you have all the facts that you need? Are the components in the right order and size? All right. You should have the hook at first, and then the background, and then the thesis statement. This is the right order. And in terms of size, your hook should be just one sentence, your thesis statement at the end, just one sentence, and you need a number of sentences depending on the word limit that you have between the hook and the thesis statement. Are all the ideas related to the essay main idea? This is very important. Whatever you add in the hook, in the background information, in the thesis statement, they should be about the main idea. Which is the topic that you have narrowed down? Which is the topic that you have made specific and to the point? Are the ideas in the paragraph logically connected? Now, all the ideas in all paragraphs, including the introduction, should be connected logically. The ideas in the hook should be logically connected to the ideas in the background information. The ideas that you have inside the background information, you have more than one, you may have 3, 4, 5 facts. They should be logically connected. And also, they should be logically connected to whatever you have in the thesis statement. Have you expressed all the ideas clearly and concisely? And also, is your language style appropriate and to the point? Are you using the right vocabulary for your field of study? And are you using impersonal language? Are you using academic language? You check everything, and then you can move on to your body paragraphs. In this video, we looked at the first paragraph of the essay, the introductory paragraph. Make sure you watch the video again if you need it, and also put your ideas into practice. It is only by writing that you learn how to write. In the next video, we're going to look at the most important part of the academic essay, the body and the body paragraphs.